Yeah, give us your name.
Well, you know who I am, you know who I am. I mean, you came to me, you wanted me to tell you this story. My name's Billy Grandsen, and thank you for giving me this platform to tell my story, finally. Because that song is not the whole story. You know, the song is not the whole story. Okay, so whole story?
Yes, please.
All right, so Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
If the hoof is splayed, that means that the reindeer was in liftoff, because when the limb extends, you see those tendons splay the toes. So that's how you know that force is being pressed against the forehead on liftoff, right?
That's right.
So if you pull that back limb back to show that what would happen if it was in liftoff, you're gonna have a splaying of the toes, right? The last,
right there,
right there, and then it takes off.
Boom.
You have the standard theory that this was vehicular manslaughter, that she was hit by a car that night. Now you also have the belief that she was actually indeed hit by Santa Claus and his reindeer, and that there's a few different causal things to look at that maybe will explain more about how she ended up that way.
They found her Christmas morning, because, you know, I went to bed early, Christmas Eve, expecting only good things from Santa. They found her Christmas morning at the scene of the attack, and there were deer hoofs on her forehead and incriminating claws marks on her back.
Okay, you're talking about something 800, 900 pounds easy that's taken off and flies in the air at a speed you can't even imagine, okay? And so it's great to have this kind of science and this technology, the software, we could simulate kind of what happened and basically get a better look.
Because that's the thing, is there's suspicions that the song is not exactly correct.
I'm just saying that there's no way that a team of reindeer pulling a sleigh at any reasonable rate of speed could do trauma only to a person's forehead and back. It would be a bloody mess.
I mean, we see evidence of something on her back, but I don't know whether it's claw marks. Reindeers don't have claws.
For the grandson to use the term claws marks shows a surprising lack of knowledge of deer anatomy.
The claws marks, you know, people hear about it and they think that it's claws, but it's not claws, it's claws marks. It was like Santa's, you know, there was like a spectacle imprint on her back where he had pressed his face so hard against the fleshy bits of her upper back, and he'd pressed it so long. It had to be good 5 to 15 seconds in order to create that deep impression of Santa spectacles on Grandma's back.
Well, what we do know is that she had left the Grandsen residence around 9:30.
She'd been drinking too much eggnog, and we begged her not to go, but she forgot her medication, so she stumbled out the door into the snow.
She was drunk. We know that. What we don't know is exactly what hit her. We know that definitely a reindeer hit her in the head, and we know that there were marks on the back, clearly.
As a forensic investigator, I always ask, does the physical evidence resonate with the story?
I mean, hoof marks on her forehead. There were no deer at the time living in our neighborhood, no reindeer. Since then, I think there are more. There are some who have moved in, decreasing property values a little bit.
One good thing we can say out of this whole thing is that we do have technology that allows us to look closely at the dynamics of how this situation occurred, and how a body is going to act under these kind of forces. If you look at this case very closely, like we have, you pay attention to what they've been calling the magic hoof, okay? Which basically involves Linda being hit from behind and spun around and then stepped on the forehead, okay?
To only have wound marks on the forehead and the back, people say, well, there would need to be something on the ribs.
Yeah.
But we can show that's probably not the case. Here, watch. If we bring her, turn her back around one more time for me. For this theory to work, we have to be seeing the sleigh and Santa in liftoff. Had Santa not been in liftoff, we would have seen Grandma literally and figuratively slayed. Again.
You're going to see fractures from torsion,
Boom. Boom. Good night, Grandma. Bring it back around.
linear force and acceleration,
She's down. Good night, Grandma. Tap.
subdural hematoma, concussions, head injuries.
Boom.
So where we go from there is, you know, you try not to forget about the family.
As soon as something happens, people start to distort it through their own twisted prisms. And again, at the base of this, it's a life was lost of a loved person, and there are no magic hooves. But it wasn't Christmas, and it never has been, without Grandma. It's green and red like it is for everybody, but it's black and it's dark. And Christmas means death, but it also means rebirth. You know, the song is not the whole story. It's just a part of the story, and life goes on, and people don't realize that, you know, it was a moment frozen in time, but we live on. There are lives that are part of the story. Grandma got run over by a reindeer walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe. As for me and Grandpa, we believe.
We done with this? Yeah. Get that?
Grab your mic, sir.